There's a reason why over 50% of this country is divorced. It's because monogamy is not natural to human beings.
People will comment on my videos. They're like, bro, you're so cringe. I'm like, that's my favorite comment to see. I'm like, that means I'm actually being my most authentic self.
I don't eat meat. I don't care if you eat meat. God bless you.
You don't?
I was born that way, though.
Really?
I was born and raised that way.
I think semen from a healthy man is potentially a superfood.
On my 21st birthday, I fasted for 30 days.
Were you having like minerals and stuff?
You want to know the truth?
We're gonna normalize just bathing in urine.
There is no such thing as past, and there is no such thing as future. And I'll prove it to you.
We actually never talked about something that we mentioned we were definitely gonna talk about, which is this whole idea that we're living in a simulation.
I think we should close on this one because it's a big deal.
What is up? Welcome back to the Jeremy Awakens podcast. Today is a very special day, everyone. We have a very special guest. I'm honored to welcome back someone who is truly walking the path of truth, freedom, and purpose. Jason Shurka is an author, spiritual teacher, and the founder of Unified, one of the fastest growing truth-seeking communities on the planet. And Jason is someone who inspires me a lot. He is living proof that your life's purpose is encoded in your pain, and that healing the world starts with awakening yourself. Jason, my dude, welcome back to the show, baby.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So, interesting start to the podcast. You know, we had this beautiful pyramid behind us set up, and some challenges, some obstacles. But
waiting
it's all
for
good.
a coder to come to give you what you need.
But it's all good. It's all good. And I think this is really cool. I mean, the whole idea of light, frequency, energy, vibration, and the healing that it can provide us. You touched on it last time we spoke, you know, but there's so many people that are healing through this modality, right? And I know there's the famous water study that those affirmations, those positive words can impact the structure of the water, and our body's 70% water. Can you just talk briefly about the impact of frequency and vibration and how this device behind us can help heal?
So this device behind you does not heal. You heal. But there are certain things in the world that can help facilitate or catalyze that process. So I think what we should do, actually, because me and you know none of this is scripted, and I like just flowing in the best possible way. So
Absolutely.
You asked me if I feel called to start in any place, and I told you start wherever you want, and now I feel called to start somewhere, so I'll start somewhere based on what you just said. Before we understand anything with this, before we're understanding the light system, before understanding any technology, any healing modalities out there, whatever it is, I think there's a basis that most people lack when it comes to their understanding, lack when it comes to their awareness. So if you're open to it, I actually want to start with something that I've been sharing over the past month and a half, 2 months on the Revolution of Healing Tour, a very concise and sort of chronological way of understanding what the fundamentals are of health and wellness, what the difference is between health and disease, how to go about measuring health versus disease, and then how to go about changing it. That's where I really feel called to start. So if you want to dive into that, I'm ready to go.
Let's get it. I'm ready.
Okay, so where do I want to begin? There's a whole lot to do.
I think you should get the mic a little closer to your mouth.
Sure.
I know you like big round objects near your mouth, so let's get it.
So I think the best place to start is the fundamental of absolutely everything, what everything is based on. So what that is, I'll get to, but I'm going to reverse engineer it. We focus on what we can see in the world, and what we can see is our physical bodies. It's everything physical that we could touch, that we could feel, that we could smell, that we can hear, and so on and so forth. And that's our biggest problem. Our problem is that we focus on what we can see. We focus on physics, things that are physical. Now, I'll ask you, Jeremy, and for everybody watching, what physically is everything made of? Your body, this, the table, starts with an A. What is it?
I was going to say matter.
Atoms.
Atoms.
Everything is made up of atoms. Now, what are atoms made up of? Scientifically speaking, without any woo-woo or anything like that, scientifically speaking, an atom is made up of subatomic particles. The majority of an atom is not physical. An atom, factually, is 0.00001% matter. That means that it's 99.999% energy. And yet we're focused on the physical, the 0.00001%. And that's our biggest mistake, because our bodies, if we're made up of atoms, that means we're only made up of 0.00001% matter. And yet everything that we do in the world is focused on how do we change things on the 0.00001%. And what I'm saying is, let's focus on the energy for a moment. Let's focus on the thing that's the root to everything else. We've been focusing on the effect instead of the cause. We've been dealing with problems from the level of their effects instead of the level of what causes them. And it's no different than the analogy that I give always. Take a tree with a poisonous seed and poisonous roots. Well, if we're just looking at the branches and we see a deformed branch and we don't understand that the root is poisoned, then we look at the branch and we say, that's a sick branch, let's cut it off. And then a new branch grows and it's still deformed, but it looks a little different, but it's still deformed. It's still filled with disease and poison and so on and so forth. So we cut it off. And that cycle continues, and we wonder why the tree keeps growing deformed branches, even though we keep cutting the branches off. And the reason is because the root is poisoned. The seed has toxins in it. And that's the same exact way that we're going about so-called healing in the world today. We're dealing with the effect instead of the cause. The effect is matter. The effect is physical. The cause is energy. So the rules that dictate the physical world are the laws of energy, and that's what we need to focus on. If you want to break down health and disease in a very simple way, listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but there are fundamentals that you need to understand everything else. And those fundamentals between health and disease, what is the common denominator between all disease? I don't care what disease you have. I don't care what cancer you have. I don't care what kind of ailment you're dealing with. The common denominator, whether it's depression, anxiety, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, or anything in between, is energetic imbalance. That's all that's going on. Now, you want to call it a different expression based on this type of cancer, or this type of this, or this type of that, fine. But the common denominator doesn't change. It is energetic imbalance. And the reason why I start there is because if we start thinking in terms of energy, the way we go about healing changes. Instead of saying, how do I kill the cancer? We start asking, how do I rebalance the imbalance of energy in my body? Because today, somebody has cancer, and they say, nuke it, do chemo. Now, I want to just preface, I'm not against Western medicine. I've said this to you before.
Yeah.
I am in support of Western medicine in the proper time. Western medicine saved my life with a staph infection. If it wasn't for intravenous antibiotics, I would have died. I wouldn't have been here today. All I'm saying is, use the nuke as the last resort and not the first resort.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with the cancer, you're dealing with the ailment, instead of saying, let's just nuke the entire body, which would be no different than saying there's a terrorist with 6 kids in the corner of this room. How do we save them? Let's just throw a nuke. Well, you're going to kill the kids too while you kill the terrorist. That's what we're doing with our bodies today. We're just nuking the entire environment of the body. Now, if it's between death and nuke, nuke. But until you get to that point, why are we taking the energetic route and calling it alternative? Why are we using that as the last resort instead of the first resort? Because if we use that as the first resort, maybe we wouldn't have to get to the last resort of a nuke. So again, I'm not opposed to nuking the body, so long as that is the last resort and there's no other option. First, try everything else. And when you see it from the level of energy, it changes everything. Because now you understand that nuking the body destroys everything. It destroys the environment. The problem is not the cancer. The problem is not the heart disease. The problem is the environment that allows that dis-ease to exist in the first place. And if you nuke the problem, you'll get rid of the effect and have it replaced with something else, but the cause is still there. The cause is a poor environment, an imbalanced energetic environment. And it would be no different than cutting off the branch and having a new deformity grow. The way this works is coming from that perspective, not nuking anything. The way that I believe we should go about healing is the same way that this is based on. It's natural law. Change the environment so you can synchronize with something a whole lot more productive. And that's the way that I live my life.
That was a classic Jason Shurka rant.
Yes. There's going to
good
be a
one.
lot of those today.
Yeah, I love it. I was thinking about when you were explaining this whole idea of the tree and the branches, right? And rather than addressing like the soil and the roots and the foundation, we're just looking at the effect, like you mentioned, right? It's the same thing with all areas of life too. It's one of the reasons why in relationships, oftentimes people will start perpetually just attracting the same type of people in their life, one after the other, just in a different human form. It's because they haven't healed what's internally causing them to attract someone who isn't aligned with what they actually want to create. And then they're just perpetually attracting the same sick branch rather than fixing their foundation.
I'm very happy you bring that up because there's a missing link, a missing part of the equation that, let me start with this. I've traveled to almost every state in the United States. I've spoken in many of them. I've met a lot of different types of people. I've spoken in many countries outside of this country. And the one thing that I see over and over again is I see all these people, specifically the ones that come to my talks because they're focused on health and wellness specifically, on the basis of it, not the technicalities and all that, but the basis, the essence, the principles of it. And I constantly see a lot of these types of people. I mean, some of them are spending millions of dollars on how do I get rid of this cancer? How do I overcome this? How do I fix this disease? And there's also always one piece of the equation that I see missing. The people that have tried everything under the sun and they don't understand, why aren't I healing? Why isn't this changing? And what I'm about to share, in my opinion, is one of the most profound parts of healing, and it has nothing to do with medicine, but everything to do with the underlying energy and essence of who you are. Where it starts is the fact that nothing happens to you. And I said this last time when we spoke as well. Nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. That's the first principle that we have to always remind ourselves of. The same way that you're not going to take a hammer and break your own leg because you are one organism, and why would you do something to hurt yourself? Well, that's a physical perspective. But from the energetic perspective, energy cannot be created or destroyed, and it is completely interconnected. And that's just a fact of how it works. Well, if you look at that energy, whatever you want to call it, the thing that we can't really explain, the thing that's infinite, the thing that's boundless, the thing that some people call God or this, or I don't care what you call it, but the thing that we can't really name because you can't really understand because it's infinite, that thing is one and interconnected. And just like you wouldn't take a hammer to break your own leg, it will not do anything to hurt itself. So when you see it from that perspective, from the energetic perspective, it begs the question, why is there rape in the world? Why is there murder in the world? Why is there disease in the world? If it wouldn't do anything to hurt itself, why does it allow for things like that to happen? And the answer, and it's going to sound crazy, but I'll explain it. The answer is because our greatest hardships, our greatest obstacles, our greatest challenges, our greatest diseases are our greatest opportunities. And the second that we choose to change our relationship and our perspective with those things, from the fact that they're these really bad things to the fact that they're the greatest blessings that we can have in our lives, is the moment things will start changing. And I'm saying exactly what you think I'm saying. I'm saying that there is a blessing and a silver lining in things as bad as murder, war, and rape. And I'm being very direct with you because that is exactly what I'm saying. There are people that are leading some of the greatest movements in the world. Things like stopping child sex trafficking. What, you think those people come from nothing? They were raped as children. And yet they are the greatest leaders in the world, stopping other children from getting into those same situations. There is a silver lining in every hardship that you go through, and the harder it is, the greater the opportunity there is to pull from it. Just like with a slingshot, think of potential energy versus kinetic energy. The more potential, the more kinetic. The more you pull, the more you build, the more you have to release, the further the pebble will fly. So the greatest or hardest situations in our lives have the greatest opportunities. And there are people that I meet all the time with some really, really big problems. And the problem is that they call it a problem. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity to see things differently. Because you have two choices when you deal with something like cancer. You could say, poor little old me, I'm going to die. Why am I going through this? Why is this happening to me? Or bring it. Let's go. Let's see what you got. Let's see how far you can take me, because I'm going to beat your ass. I'm going to learn how to overcome you. And I'm going to take that blessing that I learned because of you, the cancer, and teach it to everybody else in my situation all around the world. There is a blessing in every hardship. And if you don't look for that lesson, and you just allow the hardships to happen to you instead of finding why and how they're happening for you, you're going to live a pretty shitty life. That's just the truth.
Facts.
But when you look at those things and you say, what is the lesson here? That is the thing that most people miss when it comes to overcoming a challenge. If you don't see that, that's what causes the repetitive themes that you're talking about. Because until I learn a lesson, when somebody learns a lesson, it sounds like it's like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not a punishment. It's a gift. God is trying to give you a gift. He's trying to teach you something to grow. And if you refuse to receive that gift, well, he's going to keep giving it to you until you receive it. And until I do receive it, or if I keep saying no, I have every reason to keep getting it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's the repetitive theme that you're talking about in your life. But again, until we sit there, no matter how hard your life is or sick your life is or whatever it is, and ask ourselves, what is the lesson that this ailment is trying to teach me? Well, good luck. You could spend millions of dollars all day.
Yeah.
You could try every gadget under the sun, and you could work with the greatest technologies there are under the sun. It will not help you overcome it fundamentally until you change that on the level of its foundation. The level of its foundation is a spiritual thing. It's a lesson that you need to learn.
It sounds like you're talking about victimhood. Everything good or bad is happening to me, rather than actually having that mindset of like, oh wow, what is the silver lining? How can I have the mindset that this is actually the biggest blessing? Like something massive is going to evolve from this challenge and obstacle. And in my most recent ayahuasca journey, I actually had to sit with the fact that I had been playing victim in certain areas of my life. There is no lower vibration or frequency that you can operate from than the vibration of victimhood. The person that is always just feeling sorry for themselves, making excuses, and living life like everything is happening to them. And I've been there, and that just depletes the shit out of your energy. Like you were saying with the energy imbalance.
Yes.
And something I've been thinking about a lot too is like, I've met some of these people that are like at the biohacking conferences, and they're like doing all the things, ice baths, red light therapy. They're doing the carnivore diet. They're all the supplements, but they're still fucking unhappy. They're still not actually connected to the present moment. And I feel like a big reason for that is that they're not actually somatically allowing themselves to fully feel their feelings and expressing their most authentic selves. One of the things I love about you, and I try to do the same thing, is just speak from the heart and be real and actually feel those different energies traveling through the body and not suppress it, but actually express it. Because at the end of the day, the root cause of most disease, especially things like depression, is a feeling of disconnection. You're disconnected from your own essence, your own energy. So what are some things that people can do to start creating more balance and alignment within themselves energetically so they can start healing?
You brought up Dr. Masaru Emoto. I want to talk about him for a moment, because that's part of it. It's a very big part of it. And it's very simple and it's very profound in terms of what we learned from him. But beyond what we learned from him, where can we take it to understand it further, which I want to simplify here today. So there's a million things you could do. I mean, there are things that are free, there are things that cost money, and there's a combination of both. There are things like this technology, and there are things like grounding, where you literally go outside and you step on this bare earth the way that you were meant to as a human being, without plastic on your feet, and your body's charged and the earth's charged. We're having an exchange, and it reduces inflammation in the body. That's one way. Breathing is another way. Drinking clean water is another way. Eating clean food is another way. Fasting sometimes to give your body a little refresh and restart is another way. There's a million. different types of ways. But there's one that I actually find very interesting that this technology is actually based on, or at least a part of it. But it's something that takes us even beyond the technology itself because it shows us how we can do certain things in our lives. So Dr. Masaru Emoto, he died around 2012, 2013, if I'm not mistaken. He was a Japanese businessman turned scientist. And his hypothesis, and I think we spoke about this last time, but he had a question. And his question in the 90s is, or was, is it possible for my words, my thoughts, my emotions, my beliefs to change my environment around me? And everybody looked at him saying, there's something wrong with you. You can't do that. And he said, you guys might be right, but you guys might be wrong too. Let's do a test. So he took 2 cups of water. He really took 2 Petri dishes. And he took the same exact water, understanding that water has a molecular formation to it, made up of molecules, and the molecules form in a specific way. Yeah. So he wanted to see if this Petri dish of water and this Petri dish of water would change its molecular formation and molecular structure within the water itself based on how you speak to it and even think towards it. Now, before I take it a step further, I want to preface with this. There is no difference between speech and thought. The difference is you can hear one and the other you can't. They're both frequencies. One you can hear, one you cannot. That's why there are certain technologies out there like the one that Stephen Hawking was using and what Elon Musk is doing now with his brain chip. Not that I support it, but just to show you how it works. It's taking frequencies of thought and converting it into words. Okay, that shows you that the difference between the thought of this bottle and the word of this bottle is just the difference of a frequency. One you can hear and one you cannot. I say that because, again, we only go by what we can feel and hear and touch with our senses. But that's not what we should be doing here. We need to understand the world from an energetic standpoint. So when I say he spoke to the water, and to this one he said, you're ugly and I hate you, and to this one he said, you're beautiful and I love you, it wasn't just speech that he did. He also thought towards it. And it had the same impact. Now, what was the impact? Well, the bad Petri dish, we'll call it, with the ugly, versus the good Petri dish with the beauty, he found time and time again when he took the water and froze it and looked at it under a microscope, the molecular formation of water in the bad cup was always distorted, and the molecular formation of water in the good cup was always coherent. It was creating like snowflakes and geometric shapes and so on and so forth. Now, what that means, and then we'll take it to what it really means, what that means in essence is your thoughts, your words, your emotions, your beliefs are an energy that impact and imprint water and change its molecular structure. Being that you are made up, we are all made up of over 70% water, that's really important because you want that structure. But why do you want that structure? And the answer is actually much simpler than most people make it to be. The water in your body has minerals and ions and a bunch of different things in them that allow for electricity to conduct through that media, meaning pure water is not the greatest conductor of electricity, but water in your body is not pure water. It's water with a bunch of different things in it. I'm simplifying this to make it easy, but that's what conducts electricity, things like salt and so on and so forth. Now, if you look at the molecular formation of water as you would look at a hose, if I took a hose and I kinked it all up and I turned on the water, is the water going to come out? Probably not. Yeah. You're going to have a problem. But if I untangled that hose and I allowed it to flow, the water is coming out in a very simple and coherent way. Same thing with what Masaru Emoto taught us with the structure of water in your body, only the water is the pathway for electricity and energy to move through. And the more coherent it is, the more energy flows, and the more distorted it is, the more energy is stagnant, and that's why you call it a disease or a dis-ease of energy and a dis-ease of flow. When you look at it from that perspective, what you really need to do is create coherent structures of water in the body so electricity and energy can move through uninterrupted and flawlessly to a point where you have energetic balance, which is just flow, as opposed to energetic imbalance, which is called disease. So that's part of what he taught us. That's part of what this technology does. And it's part of what we can do always in our lives. If you take love and you put it on this water bottle, it will change the molecular formation of the water. Just like if I heat up the water bottle, the container, and I put water in it, the water will heat up.
Yeah.
It's because of something called the law of synchronization. Everything is trying to come into homeostasis with each other. And homeostasis is not just based on the temperature of the bottle. It's based on the energy of the bottle as well. We need to think in terms of energy. You create a coherent environment, you will synchronize with coherency.
Yeah. You know what comes up for me when you say that is a lot of the work behind Joe Dispenza, right, is all about the most important thing you can do energetically to create that coherence is aligning your thoughts with your feelings and emotions and your head with your heart. And your mind is in control of your thoughts and your heart is really responsible for your feelings and emotions. Oftentimes there's a disconnect between those two things. People are always in their head and they're completely disconnected from their heart.
Yeah.
So if we can actually create alignment and coherence and take that 18-inch journey from our head to our heart, I find that that's when also a lot of healing starts to take place, you know, which is a beautiful thing. And like the frequency and vibration of our heart. And I feel like also unhealed hearts, talking about the root cause of all of the biggest problems and diseases in the world. If you think about all of the terrible things happening in the world, like you were referring to and alluding to, whether it's sexual abuse and child trafficking and murder and all of those things, is coming from tremendously unhealed hearts. Because when you actually are operating from a frequency of love and connection, you would never want to cause harm to another human being. And I feel like that is a journey that I'm exploring more too. Especially as men, I feel like we don't talk about that enough. Like really opening up our heart space and living a life abundantly sharing that, you know? And how has that journey been for you in terms of like your heart space? I'm curious to know. Like, is there any moment in your life that you can look back at and be like, yo, I was really just operating from a lot of pain? You know, you talked about how we can transmute our pain into our purpose. Yeah. You wouldn't be doing all the work you're doing right now if you hadn't experienced some level of pain in your life. A lot of it.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on that.
For me, it happened. I was actually much younger. I'm still young today. Both of us are, which is awesome, by the way. I love that because I think it shows a lot of people what you can do at a younger age without having to wait till you're 60 to be able to reach something awesome. But for me, between the ages of 14 and 18 years old was what changed my life the most because of how bad it was. And I was completely out of alignment. And I was doing everything that I was not supposed to do in terms of my purpose and my path. And I was drinking a lot and smoking a lot and doing what everybody else was doing around me. But for me, it was like extra bad because it was so not a part of anything that I was here to do. And throughout that period of time, I completely shut myself down. And I shut myself down because up until the age of 13, before that started, I was very different than people around me. Different in a good way, but I didn't understand the different in a good way. I just saw different. And, you know, people looked at me and I felt that they thought I was weird and I didn't want to be weird. So I created a different persona. And that's what I did for about 4 to 5 years. And as I created a different persona, and it sounds funny because I was only 14, 15, but like I was like running nightclubs in New York City at 15 years old.
When did you start growing your beard?
Like 13.
13.
Okay, so, you know, it wasn't
That's
the
so
average
funny.
14, 15-year-old. Like, it was a completely different ball game of what was going on there. I grew up very, very fast. So from 14 to 18, I was doing things that most 25 to 30-year-olds were doing.
Yep.
And somehow my parents were okay with it. I have no idea what was going on there, but
They were completely aware of what you were doing or no?
Yeah, somewhat. Maybe I lied about some of it. I don't even remember. It was a point in my life where a lot of it I don't even remember because of how disconnected I was. It was crazy. And what I could tell you is the further I steered off of my path and off of my purpose, the more I got hurt. And that's where my shoulders started dislocating. I dislocated my left shoulder 23 times. I got 3 shoulder surgeries by the age of 18. I got a staph infection in my leg. It almost killed me. And it was a crazy situation, a crazy series of events over a period of 4 years of a lot of pain. By age 18, I was in a sling for 10% of my life. I was in the hospital time and time and time again. And it kept bringing me to a point where in the beginning I wasn't listening, so it kept happening. It was the repetitive theme, right? It goes back to what we were talking about. I was not looking at the lesson. I was a victim to it, or at least I thought I was.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? And there was one moment, talk about turning pain into purpose. It wasn't intentional. I think it was on my 19th birthday, because I was in the hospital on my 19th birthday, almost dead with overcoming a staph infection in my leg, something that happened to me in Thailand by myself at the time. And I was laying in this bed, and this was 9 years ago. So social media wasn't the same. It was like Snapchat, Instagram wasn't a thing. It wasn't the same, but it was like beginning. And even Netflix, it wasn't all around. It's not like you go to the hospital now and like you have a smart TV. It was a different time. So I'm sitting in bed, and I didn't really have anything around me. And it was the first time in my life that I just experienced presence, like real presence. It was the first time in my life where I could hear my heartbeat and I could feel my heartbeat. It was like real meditation by accident. And I realized in that moment that it was the moments between each beat that allowed me the ability to survive in the first place. Like that's what life is. The silence and the presence in between the noise that makes the noise possible to begin with. And it was in that point that really changed a lot of things for me. It was in that point where my heart started opening a lot more. It was in that point where I started doing things differently. I would fast a lot. Today, not so much. I'd like to get back into it.
Yeah.
But there was a period of, I would say between 20 to 25 years old, where like I was in monk mode, really monk mode. And it wasn't sustainable for me long term because I want to live in this world too.
Yeah.
But that was very, very powerful for me because it allowed me to go through a lot of the things that I looked away from. My form of therapy to open my heart is writing. I write a lot. And I write books. And people think I write books so they can read them, and that's true, but I write books for me.
That's a beautiful way of therapy.
It's therapy, and thank God what I'm doing for me is also helping the reader.
Yeah.
So it's something that helps everybody. But when it comes to my heart, there's a lot of that. And what really changed a lot of things for me was the passing of my father, where it was like, I mean, that man had the biggest heart in the world, and yet you would never see it. He was one of those guys, you know, like the Israeli, like macho man that looks like he wants to kill you all the time, but really he just loves you.
Yeah.
And he'll do everything for. That's the type of person he was. And me and him would always go back and forth just on a personal level. And I'm like, Abba, why don't you like say I love you more? And he's like, because you know. And I'm like, yeah, but like when you say it more, it's you know, it's like show your heart more. So through him not showing it in the way that I would have wanted him to show it, got me to be able to connect to my heart in many ways.
Yeah.
But the more I started connecting with him, the more I understood how open his heart really was.
Yeah.
It was just open in a completely different way. And his passing got me to see a lot of, I mean, it just got me to understand how fragile life is.
Yeah.
And talk about taking every hardship and turning it or trying to find the silver lining. I mean, I told you, the guy died in my arms. His blood was all over me. And that's not a pretty scene to see for anybody.
Yeah.
Especially when your father is like one of your best friends. But it showed me, and I think I shared this last time as well, it showed me the difference between him and his body. And it got me to truly be able to experience now, not just this like mental philosophical thing that I always talk about of like death doesn't exist. I actually got to see it.
Yeah.
And that's the silver lining in something that was really, really, really difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'll deal with it forever. And it doesn't mean you don't miss them. And it doesn't mean it's not a trauma. It just means you take the energy of the trauma from a more heart-spaced and heart-centered perspective, and you try and find that silver lining there because it's all happening somehow perfectly. The fact that we don't understand the order sometimes is a whole different story, but there is an order and there is a beauty that everything's happening by.
Thank you for sharing that, Jay.
Yeah.
Dude, so many downloads come up as you're sharing this. Number one.
You're a lefty.
Yeah, I write with my left. I'm ambidextrous. So I write with my left, I eat with my left, but then like functional things like throwing a football, shooting a basketball, like I'm right hand dominant, which is actually
Really?
cool because most people, they do one thing. They do everything with one side.
I do everything with my left.
Exactly. So like obviously it's creating a lot of asymmetries with your body because your left side's getting all this use and your right side's not. For me, I always grew up and I like have pretty good alignment between my left and right side. And with the brain too, the left and right side, that coherence, like working together, like the creative brain and the analytical brain merging together. So I think that was a blessing. Anyways, talking about that experience when you're in the hospital bed, right? And you experience presence for the first time as a 19-year-old on your birthday. I was thinking about this. Literally, had a call with my students yesterday, and I was talking, and someone asked me, how do I start healing my heart? And the first thing that came up to me was like actually allowing yourself to feel your own heartbeat. When is the last time that you actually paused, put your hand on your heart, and got so present and so still that you allowed yourself to hear and feel your heart beating, because it's doing that 100,000 times every day?
Yeah.
Are you ready to feel limitless in 2025? I'm talking limitless physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, financially. This is your sign to try out microdosing for 30 days. We have a very special opportunity for podcast listeners. You can get started for only $222. This includes the medicine being shipped to you, the highest quality, fair trade, organic, sustainably sourced microdoses in the world at your doorstep. And you also get access to live group coaching calls with me, our private community. This is your sign to take ownership of your life in 2025. If you're ready, hit the link in the description, and I can't wait to see you on the inside. That you allowed yourself to hear and feel your heart beating, because it's doing that 100,000 times every day.
Yeah.
And it's like bringing awareness to the beauty of the automatic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, just beating without you having to do anything. What a blessing.
It's
like, what a
insane.
gift. Actually allowing yourself to feel your own heart is the first step in actually healing your heart, right? Like, we hear it all the time. You need to feel it if you want to heal it. Feel your feelings, feel your emotions. And so much of that suppression is causing all of the dysfunction and disease. Another thing you said was you didn't want to be weird when you were younger.
Now I want to be weird.
Exactly. Bro, like, I'm telling people all the time, people will comment on my videos. They're like, bro, you're so cringe. And I'm like, that's my favorite comment to see. I'm like, that means I'm actually being my most authentic self. And my most authentic self might trigger the shit out of you. And that's okay. That's part of the journey of actually becoming most connected to yourself and your purpose and your mission, is actually loving yourself enough to be yourself, regardless of the opinions of other people.
Yeah.
So when did that journey start for you in terms of like actually being willing to speak your truth to the point where you probably knew it was going to ruffle some feathers and trigger some people, because a lot of the shit that you talk about isn't widely accepted as truth, you know, and it's going to challenge a lot of people's norms. They're going to be like, yo, this Jason Shurka motherfucker, he's a crazy dude. Like, this guy's triggering the shit out of me, you know?
When I started realizing that I didn't want to be normal, because normal became weird.
Yeah.
Like,
normal.
I mean, look at what's normal. McDonald's. The hell is that?
Living paycheck to paycheck, being 40 pounds overweight.
It's weird.
Being sad.
It's weird. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
And I think what changed it for me was, and there was a process. I mean, I literally stopped being friends with most of my friends. really most of them. I had a big friend group, and one day I went in the chat and I said, hey guys, I got to leave this chat. And
Really?
don't take it personally. It's not anything against you guys, but this isn't good for me. So I think as my like literal vibration, like as I started changing,
Yeah.
and that started with fasting and eating different types of food, clean food, food with higher levels of water in it, raw food, things like that. It really started changing almost like my brain chemistry. Like I started seeing things in a different way. And what I thought was funny of this types of things that my friends would say when I was like 18, 19, suddenly I looked at it and I'm like, that's so dumb. Like, I don't want to be there. It hurts me. Like I can't be around there. And I think that's what really made the change, where there was a change in my vibration of being, and therefore what resonated with me changed. Almost like music. Like there was music I used to listen to, like, Skrillex.
Yeah.
So like I used to listen to that.
Yeah.
Today, if you turn that on, I'm in pain. I can't hear that. But there was a point where I resonated with that when I was like 16. So same thing with people. I started reading different books. I started writing. I started fasting. I started eating in a different way. I started being a lot more conscious. I just took a break from all the normal people. And then I realized that they're not normal. And if they are, it's not a normal that I want to be.
Yo, bro, I love these conversations because like you said in the car over here, it's like I can have all these notes of what I want us to talk about, and the flow of the conversation just directs us. Even just going back, this is something else that came up on this call yesterday, and you just mentioned it. It's like if you're watching this video right now and you have both of your parents alive, you have your grandparents alive, that is the most unbelievable gift that you could ever ask for. You recently lost your dad. I haven't had any of my grandparents alive for the last 15 years. And there's moments where I'm like, yo, I would just do anything to be able to give my grandma a hug or be able to tell my grandpa that I appreciate him and everything that he sacrificed to give my family the opportunity that we have now. And we take that shit for granted, bro. Like, I just encourage people to pause what they're doing right now. Send a text, send a voice note to your loved one and express your gratitude for having them in your life. Like, you literally might not get another opportunity. Like, literally treating every moment, every day as a ceremony, as a gift to just like be more open-hearted and share our love and appreciation. And then you also mentioned your 14 to 18 period. You were drinking a lot, you were partying a lot, whatever. I'm glad you got that out of your system early.
Yeah, big time.
Because then it's like, now you're, in your late 20s, you're living in Miami and you're not like tempted. You don't have no FOMO of like, oh man, like, fuck, what if I went to the club right now, like, and popped some bottles? It's like, no. Like,
No, I had that when I was like 17. By 21,
yeah.
on my 21st birthday, I fasted for 30 days.
30 days?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like you did like during the day fast?
No,
You fasted for
I
30
didn't
days?
eat for
No
a month.
food?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it was phenomenal.
Well, you were obviously drinking what? Were you having like minerals and stuff?
You want to know the truth?
Yeah.
So I did juice for a little bit.
Okay.
I did water for a little bit. Ever heard of urine therapy?
You were doing that.
I did that.
You're drinking your own
I did
piss.
that only for a week, and I did that. I'll tell you why. I started reading a lot about it. I started seeing cancer patients reverse their cancer with it.
Really?
Yeah, like major. And I didn't understand like what the hell is going on. So I read about it. I saw a bunch of studies about it, like legit ones, like NYU studies. A lot of universities doing studies that they don't really talk about. And I started looking deeper into it, and I understood it in the mind, but I needed to understand, like one of my questions was, it's called looping. If you're only drinking that and you're not drinking water, logically, you're going to dry out, right? Eventually, eventually the water is going to run out. And somehow it's the opposite. I don't know how, but you're actually creating more water than you can drink when you're doing it. It's insane. So there were a lot of things that I was doing during that fast, but that was one of them for a week. People would look at me and they're like, Jason, what are you doing? You're glowing. Now, I'm not going to tell them, hey, I'm drinking piss, but that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I've never felt that good in my life.
Really? And
I've
you're
never-
just drinking your own piss. Your piss must have been clean because you weren't eating
Listen,
too.
urine is blood that's filtered. That's all it is. Before it's urine,
Yeah, about the powder.
it's blood that goes through your kidneys, ends up in your bladder.
This is crazy. I'm just gonna.
There's a lot of people that believe that urine is this toxic thing. It's not true. If it was toxic, your bladder wouldn't be what's called a permeable sac. So have you ever had the feeling where you have to pee and then it goes away?
Yeah.
Okay. The reason for that is because your body's dynamic. Your body doesn't get rid of only things that are bad. Your body gets rid of things that it doesn't need now, but in 5 minutes it may need it. So if it needs this hormone or it needs this enzyme in 5 minutes from now, it's going to pull it back from the bladder if you didn't get rid of it yet. Urine is primarily water, primarily urea, which, by the way, is what they use in high-end cosmetics to get rid of acne. Other than that, it's a lot of hormones, a lot of minerals, a lot of enzymes, and a little bit of toxicity. But that little bit of toxicity is not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because if you look at immune therapy, what vaccines are built on, it's built on that. It started with urine therapy.
Yeah.
Because what's the idea? The idea, which in essence works before they did what they did, is you take an antigen, something bad, a problem. You take the antigen, you heat it up, you minimize it in strength, and then you reintroduce it to the body. And you reintroduce it to the body in order to create antibodies. That's the idea behind the vaccine. That's the idea behind immunology and immune therapy and so on and so forth. Then they took them and did what they did and put metals and preservatives and so on and so forth. But it started with urine. And if you go to Japan, if you go to Germany, Japan specifically, they use urine therapy till today. Till this day they do it. Because your body is creating your own perfect medicine. The problem is they can't monetize that because you're the one doing it.
Yeah.
Now Shanghai, the government in Shanghai, owns all the porta potties in the city. And the reason why they do that is because they collect all the urine.
No.
Yeah. And they sell it to Big Pharma, and I'll tell you why. Big Pharma, many of the companies, buy from one major company called Enzymes of America because they need enzymes like urokinase to be put into their pills that help heart attack patients, for example. Enzymes of America owns the biggest porta potty company in the United States of America called Porta Johns. So Porta Johns is a porta potty company, biggest one in the United States. It is directly connected to Enzymes of America. That's how Enzymes of America, the company, gets all their enzymes. They take all the urine, extract enzymes from it and hormones from it, and then use it for the drugs. So they sell it to Big Pharma, Roche Pharmaceuticals, and so on and so forth. And then these pharmaceutical companies then take these enzymes. You can't patent something that occurs naturally in nature. So you can't just take urokinase and give it to somebody. You could, but you'll never get an exclusive on a patent because it occurs naturally in nature. So they need to take that, combine it with a bunch of chemicals and drugs and a bunch of garbage, and then sell it to you as a drug, when in reality, the only reason why that drug has an ounce of being able to work in the first place is because of the thing that came from you, first and foremost. So your urine is known as your own perfect medicine. But there are two things that you should know. Number one, if you're on antibiotics, do not touch it, or on any pharmaceutical drugs. Number two, if you have kidney failure, do not touch it. Those are the two situations where you do stay away from it. Other than that, it can be used for some incredible things, and think of a jellyfish thing. What is the best thing?
So are you saying you're saying there's human urine in different pharmaceutical drugs?
There's human urine in a lot of things, including cosmetic products that women put on their face.
And that urine is coming from porta potties?
Where else do you want it to come from?
That's fucking disgusting. I'm just thinking about like a music festival and like people are doing all sorts of weird things and they're peeing in a porta potty that is
I mean, there are plants that take sewage water and turn it into drinking water.
Oh, stop it.
Jason. No. There's technologies that do it. It turns sewage water into drinking water.
I wonder how Noah would respond if you started drinking pee again.
Oh, I still do. I was sick the other day, yesterday. I drank it.
Really?
Yeah.
You just like peed in a cup and just drank it right there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yesterday?
Yeah. 11 a.m. I was sick. 11 p.m. I went to sleep. I woke up. I'm fine.
And how did that taste?
I'm used to it.
Is it pretty horrible?
Depends how you eat. If you eat bad food, if you're eating like, well, let's say I don't want to call it bad food, but let's say you eat bread or meat, it's going to be a lot nastier.
And it's going to be like acidic and stuff.
More. If you're going to eat a lot of fruit, it's like water.
Really?
Yeah. Doesn't smell, doesn't taste, doesn't anything.
It's something I've never done.
You don't need to drink it though. I mean, even putting it on your skin, it cleans the hell out of your skin.
What, just like rubbing it on your face?
Yeah, and it goes away. You're not going to smell. In about 2 to 3 minutes, you may feel a burning sensation because it's very hydrating to the skin.
By the way, it's also very true with a man's bodily fluids, semen. You know, if you're getting intimate with a woman and she feels called to provide you some love.
You're listening, Noah?
If your partner is feeling called to provide you love and intimacy orally, you want to pay your respects by making sure that you're nourishing your body with the healthiest, cleanest food so that bodily fluid tastes good. And this is something I'm actually curious because I always do my best, especially if I know where I sense that there's going to be intimacy in that way. I'm like, yo, I'm going to eat a lot of pineapple that day,
100%.
coconut water, watermelon. I'm going to reduce like the dairy, the meat. I'm going to just be very intentional about creating the most beautiful experience for that lucky woman to experience those divine juices. Now,
those divine juices.
I have a hypothesis. I have a hypothesis that I don't think I've ever shared on the podcast. I'm curious to know your thoughts.
Yeah.
I think semen from a healthy man is potentially a superfood. And I think
It has a lot of energy.
Maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, it will actually be a more mainstream thing of like having a shot. You know, people are taking shots of wheatgrass and spirulina and ginger. Like from a healthy dude like you and I feel like a shot of semen would be like a fucking, like the best nootropic for your brain health, your performance.
I'll tell you the truth. Listen, I don't know. It kind of makes sense. It's disgusting because of, but it makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of potential energy in there.
Yeah.
If you think about it like that, there's a lot of potential energy.
A lot of potential energy.
But if you look at it from the other perspective, like even urine, like it's not disgusting to me because I got used to it. But to other people, that's gross.
You know what would be interesting? I know you haven't dabbled much in plant medicine, but what was really crazy last month when I was in Costa Rica sitting with ayahuasca, there's this guy in my group, second ceremony we have. This guy had Crohn's disease. He also had different gastric issues. He had to get inches removed from his colon. Okay. During one of the ayahuasca ceremonies, there's these different entities that come in front of his face during his experience, and they ask him to open his mouth. He opens his mouth. He feels this energy go through his stomach, his intestines. They're there for about 15 minutes, and then he purges it out. He said after that moment, when he was talking and sharing this the next morning, first morning that he woke up without stomach pain in 20 years.
Wow.
I spoke to him earlier this week. It's been 4 weeks since that experience. He hasn't experienced any pain. He hasn't had to take his medication. It was literally this higher intelligence of the plant medicine, of ayahuasca, healing energetically what was blocking him. And it's absolutely insane to hear stories like that. They call it spiritual surgery, and it oftentimes happens in psychedelic therapy. And I don't know, man, I think it would be really interesting for you to experience that.
I think I'm getting closer to that point.
Yeah.
Where whenever it needs to be like a calling for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Of like whenever it's time, it's time.
Yeah.
And the time will come. I know that's going to happen, but it hasn't been a part of my life just yet.
Yeah.
I told you I did it once. I did it with my friend. He's sitting right here. We did it in Thailand, not the proper way.
Yeah.
We were 18 years old, Thailand, parties, whatever. Still very interesting experience, but not the way that I would ever do it again in terms of what we're talking about here.
I want to connect you with the Rhythmia people in Costa Rica because I think specifically ayahuasca, it's hard to explain, but it is operating at such a high frequency. It's so unbelievable, the intelligence of nature, of these different plants.
But it doesn't make you throw up a bunch?
Oh, it does. And I was for 4 days, I was just shitting nonstop. It was
Really?
crazy. It was a very challenging journey for me, four straight ceremonies. But at the end of it, I actually haven't shared this experience. And this was probably the most vulnerable clip that I've ever captured. I haven't shared it with anyone other than a couple close friends. Basically, long story short, it's the final ceremony, 4 straight ayahuasca ceremonies. Each one is 6 to 7 hours long. And the common theme with each ceremony for me, this most recent time, was like I was just releasing and shitting a lot. At some point, it's just water, every 10 minutes going to the bathroom. And it got to the point where it was very frustrating because anytime I was getting close to having a vision and opening up a new portal, I would get interrupted by having to go to the bathroom. So the final ceremony, 4th ceremony, it's like 5 a.m., okay? We're finishing up. Everyone's like feeling amazing. They're dancing outside with the sunrise. And I just feel this urge to purge out the mouth. And it wasn't coming. And it was very frustrating. And I felt so weak physically because I basically released all the nutrients I had in my body.
Yeah.
And fast forward to like 7 or 8 a.m., I'm in my room at this point, and I'm like, let me just take a shower and cleanse myself. As soon as I turn the shower on, I feel all the movement in my stomach. I'm like, yes, I'm finally going to purge. They don't call it getting sick, by the way. People in the West think when you vomit, you're sick. Actually, you're getting well.
You're getting better.
Because you're removing different energetic and emotional blockages that no longer serve you. So every time you go to the bathroom for a number 2 and you're releasing, every time you vomit, instead of thinking like, oh my God, this is disgusting or I'm sick right now, actually have the mindset that you're getting well. You're getting one step closer to connecting to your highest self. That's how I approach it. Anyways, it's like 8 a.m., bro. And I'm just like screaming inside, not screaming, but I'm in my bucket. And I'm like, please allow me to release whatever no longer serves me. I'm naming certain people. And I'm like if I ever hurt you, I'm sorry. And then I'm like, it's about to come. Like I feel it. And I purge and I dry heave. There's literally nothing left for me to purge. I released everything those 4 days. And I'm like, just starting to laugh, like, holy shit, this whole thing that I've been waiting so long to release, nothing came out. And then like 2 minutes later, finally I released and I just got like, it was like black tar-like stuff.
Wow.
Dude, it was crazy. Some of the shit that we're holding on to in our body, like insane. But the point being, after all of that releasing, I have never felt that good. Like I looked physically just absolutely dialed in, like so ripped, but I felt so cleansed energetically. Like all of the guilt, all of the shame, any resentment that I was holding on to, any vibrations of victimhood, I let that shit go during that ayahuasca experience. And it's been about 3 or 4 weeks since, bro, and I've carried that same energy every single day, and it's been amazing. And
One day I'll do it.
yeah.
One day I'll do it, and I think I'll do it at Rhythmia. I heard a lot of great things about that place.
I mean, we can definitely get this over there. It would be a perfect fit. I wanted to talk about alcohol, though.
Sure.
Because that's where I was actually going before that, because I'm pretty sure alcohol is the lowest vibration out of any substance out there. And it's interesting because it's still glorified in our society. It's still normalized. During COVID, they closed down the beaches. They closed down the gyms. They closed down the parks, but they kept liquor stores open because that was essential for people to have. So can you talk a little bit about how alcohol really dims our light and destroys our vibration?
I have a question for you before I go there.
Yeah.
Why do you think alcohol is used in religious ceremonies?
I can't speak for any other religion other than Judaism.
Yeah, of course.
But what I've learned as I kind of dive deeper into my religion, into my connection with Judaism and spiritually and everything like that, is that in Judaism, we say l'chaim, to life. Like, we are celebrating life. We're not drinking to numb ourselves and escape our reality. We're drinking, number one, because there's a lot of holiness to grapes in that whole process, right? And number two, it's a beautiful opportunity to actually remove the veil a little bit and connect with ourselves and each other in a deeper way. Now, I think when done with intention, alcohol can be a positive. If you're having 1-2 glasses of wine with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones, maybe it does deepen the connection, right? Maybe it gets people to express themselves more authentically. But as a whole in our society, most people are using alcohol to numb themselves, escape their reality. And I just believe I much rather create a reality that I never want to escape from.
So, I would say the same thing about weed. I would say the same thing about tobacco. I would say the same thing about anything.
Yeah.
I think there's a right way to use certain things with intention. And I think there's a harmful way to use certain things without intention.
Yeah.
And I mean, even with psilocybin, there are some people that most people are not using it properly.
Yeah.
And they're just getting high 24/7.
Yeah.
That's what's going on there with a lot of the people that are using it. So I personally believe it's the same thing with alcohol, where on one hand, we could say it's really bad. And on the other hand, there must be something that we're not completely understanding that I don't know, but that we're not completely understanding because it's used in so many different religious ceremonies and even spiritual ceremonies as well.
Yeah.
Of maybe deepening a connection. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe just with wine and not with vodka.
Yeah.
Maybe wine is different. I'm not an expert in any of those things.
Yeah.
What I could tell you is I've had some really good experiences with it.
Yeah.
I've had some really bad experiences with
Yeah.
it. And I think if used properly, if used in right dosages, used in right quantities, and used with proper intentions, it can bring you a long way.
Yeah.
But that's the same with anything else out there, from mushrooms to ayahuasca to, you could take anything amazing and turn it into something horrible if we use it improperly. So I actually wouldn't say the thing itself is what dims your light, but it is you that dims your light based on how you use it. And I would say the same thing with, again, I haven't used like mushrooms and ayahuasca and all that, but I would say I think the same rules apply there, where I could dim the hell out of you with mushrooms too if I use them in an improper way.
Yeah, I would say it's a little it's interesting, right? And we can just go to like on a macro scale. It's interesting how things like alcohol, again, are normalized, glorified. You see ads all the time for them, right? And then something like mushrooms, which has been used
not legal, which is weird.
It's a Schedule 1 drug. Not only is it not legal, bro, it's a Schedule 1 drug, which means if you get caught with it or whatever, like, you're going to actually potentially get charged with a felony. And we're talking about a medicine that comes from nature that's been used for tens of thousands of years. I mean, you're very knowledgeable with like stories, like biblical stuff too, and like the history of things. If you actually go back to the story of the burning bush, most people, most historians would agree that the bush that Moses was inhaling smoke from was actually an acacia tree. Now, acacia is a psychedelic. So the belief is that Moses was like inhaling the smoke from a psychedelic, which gave him like this expanded consciousness and ability to connect with the creator and like do everything he did with parting the Red Sea. I don't know if you've done any like research on that or anything.
I have. I don't know about that. It's such a deep topic. It's a much bigger topic because it's focused on other things. It's focused on other types of technologies that they had back then. The technology that Moses had was from the pharaohs. Moses was given away. I mean, he was put in the river as a little kid to be able to be saved because they said, your firstborn son, you got to kill. And when his mom, I don't even remember her name, Miriam or something, when his mom gave him away or put him on the river, and the daughter of the Pharaoh found him, they took him into the royal palace of the pharaohs. And Moses grew up under and within the pharaonic lineage and dynasty. So he had access to everything that the pharaohs had access to, the same technologies that they were using to build the pyramids and do many, many other things. Those staffs that you're talking about, from my research, those staffs that you're talking about with the Red Sea is a form of technology. And from what I learned, and it may be right and it may be wrong, right? We'll never actually know. Maybe one day we will. But what my research showed is that it uses something called electromagnetic pulsation and electromagnetic laser pulsation. And there were different staffs for different purposes. So one of the staffs is the Ankh, which is the cross with the boat with the loop on top. And that staff is known for being not just a piece of wood, but something that can be used to help, they say revive the dead, but call it healing modalities. So using electromagnetic pulsation and electromagnetic laser pulsation specific ways to help rebalance imbalances in the body.
I think, sorry, go ahead.
The other staff had a cobra on its head, a cobra on top. It was like a cobra head on top. And that's the one that, you know, if you watched any like of the children's movies of Moses and the 10 plagues and what happened with the pharaohs, and he throws the stick and it turns into a snake. That's called shape-shifting. That's turning one form into a different form. Now, people call it crazy. People call it fake. People call it science fiction. I don't think it's science fiction, because if you want to change your form, you just have to change up some of your makeup. Now,
are you talking about potentially transitioning into a female and using pronouns? Is that where you're
not that one, no.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
not this one.
I was
not
just making sure.
Not
bro.
in this case.
Okay, just making sure. You never know, bro. We're living in some crazy times, you know?
But with Moses specifically, I think that back then they were very, very spiritually advanced, and at the same time, very not spiritually advanced. So there was a big gap between the individuals, and I think Moses was one of those individuals.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he was a person. And if you look at Moses, he murdered people. He killed people. He did. I mean, look at the story. Moses went and murdered one of the pharaohs. Right there, killed him. Then there was another, 24,000 Hebrews that were killed that, God said, according to the story, they did this, they need to die. Now, that could be an interpretation, but that's what the Torah says. So it's interesting because you look at somebody like Moses and people think that when you're like Jesus or Moses, you have to be this perfect guru Buddha, and that's not true. There are a lot of normal people that could do incredible things, and I know some of those people, where you would think the opposite of them in terms of they're the furthest from spirituality possible and the most physical type of people that you'll ever see, and they curse all the time and they get angry, and yet they can do incredible things. So I think Moses was one of those people too. Now, whether psychedelics was a part of it, I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah.
But I think that whether it was or not, he definitely had some sort of connection that I think we can learn from today.
Yeah. Well, just concluding on that subject, I think what I'd like to tell people is, and I'm not the type of person that will ever try to convince anyone hey, you should do ayahuasca, you should do mushrooms. I think it's everyone's decision, and everyone's journey is unique. And if the medicine's meant to find you and call you, it will. Yep. It will. And then it's up to you to answer the call, right? And trust your intuition and connect. But I always just say, for me, mushrooms are the most powerful mirror. Mushrooms just heighten your level of awareness. And if you think about it, self-awareness is the most important skill you can cultivate, because once you have the awareness of self, then you have the ability to make decisions that are aligned with your aspirations. But so many people aren't even conscious or aware of how they're speaking to themselves, the thoughts that they're having, how they're treating other people, right? So mushrooms are a mirror because they actually show you the truth. And the truth can be very challenging sometimes, right? Because the truth triggers you. It's oh shit, I didn't know I was playing the victim all this time. I didn't know I was operating with all this guilt and shame. Oh my goodness. And once you're actually conscious and aware of that truth, then you have the ability to change your energy. And once you change your energy, you change your reality.
Big time.
So the most important thing with any psychedelic or plant medicine, and this just goes to life in general, is integration. Just like with your father passing, again, many people would easily still just be in their room right now, not leaving their bed, and binging on Netflix or just feeling sorry for themselves, right? But you were able to transmute that and actually integrate like, okay, well, let me actually take a step back. How would my dad want me to respond to this?
Yeah.
How am I going to use my journey, my obstacle to actually help other people on theirs? And that's what you've been doing. It's all about the integration and how we respond. And I think that's what mushrooms are so valuable for, is like being a mirror, right? And being conscious, like you're in a relationship, you're engaged, right? Or
Yeah.
when do you guys get married?
We're basically married.
Okay.
I call her my wife already.
But are you guys having like an official ceremony? And
At some point, you'll be there.
Okay, cool. That's what I care about most. But I'm sure like one of the biggest challenges of relationships is like you get fucking triggered by your partner all the time. Yeah. Like that's almost.
But it's fun.
Yeah. Well, when you're aware of it.
No, me and Noah say it all the time. Like
yeah.
we were in a car together for 6 weeks, like a foot away from each other for 6 weeks. And there were times in the car where I'm like, like I'm yelling at her and she's yelling at me. And I'm like, I love yelling at you. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's not listen, a relationship is there's a lot that you're going to learn from it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's meant to be easy for life because I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Right. It's fun. It's great. And I think you need to be comfortable with the person enough to yell at them and love them and let them yell at you and love you and just have fun with it. Like you're a human being,
Yeah.
and have your amazing times and have your bad times and just go through it together.
Yeah.
Just like you would be as comfortable when you are with that's how I feel with her.
Yeah.
Where like, I'll say whatever, whenever, however, and she'll say whatever, whenever, however, and it doesn't matter.
You guys have that openness.
Yeah, it's unconditional. Like you could do whatever it doesn't matter.
Are you familiar with this whole idea of twin flames?
Yes.
Okay. Do you care to share anything about that? Like, because I think it's interesting. Like the talk about like twin flames. I just had my buddy Gedalia Fenster on, and I asked him if he believes that we only have one soulmate, and he believes that we actually have multiple soulmates. And I don't know. It's just interesting hearing these different perspectives.
I don't think you only have one soulmate. I think it has to do with, this is just my opinion. I think it has to do with what's the word? Compatibility. Like if you're compatible with the person. And I think there are different ranges of being compatible with an individual. Now, the way that I define soulmate is literally a mate of the soul. Meaning, let's say me and you in the past were brothers. I would call you a soulmate of mine. Not romantically, but our souls are interconnected. We've had experiences together and we're re-experiencing certain things together. So some of my best friends are my soulmates, right? My family are my soulmates. They're mates of my soul. That's how I see it. When it comes to the romantic side of it, and again, just my opinion, I don't believe we have only one. I think that everybody has a different number of amounts of people out there that can be compatible with their soul. And there are different levels of compatibility.
Yeah.
So
it's a very triggering topic. I don't know if
is it?
I don't know if you saw the stuff that came out. It's a little different, but the stuff that came out with like Aubrey Marcus like last month. Did you see this?
Yeah.
So like, Aubrey is just, a very well-known figure in the spiritual community, right? That's actually how I first learned about ayahuasca in like 2016, 2017. Yeah. And last month recorded a podcast with his wife, and then also with another girl who was on the podcast who is like someone
coming into their relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's become like best friends with the other girl, and Aubrey appears to be like intimate and sleeping with both of them separately. And it's a very interesting dynamic. And my opinion is like, I don't think that's what I would want to have in my life.
I would have said the same
But I'm
thing.
also not someone to like tear someone else down for the dynamic that they have.
I think if the women are okay with it and they all have an agreement and that works for them, I don't see a problem.
Yeah.
I would see a problem if he's lying.
Right.
Now, that's not which he's not. It's very open. It's not something that I would do.
Yeah.
It's not the way that I would roll. But if that's their arrangement, that's their. What's the problem?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of people like imposing their ways on others. Like, for example, I don't eat meat. I don't care if you eat meat. God bless you.
You don't?
No, I was born that way though.
Really?
I was born and raised that way. So like, there are these vegans that piss me off. Like, I eat eggs, but like, shut up. You know, you want to eat eat your way, let other people eat their way, and call it a day.
Yeah.
Same thing with this. The guy wants to have sex with 10 women. If they're all on the same page, God bless you.
Yeah.
What's the problem? That's their thing. That's their relationship. It's their arrangement. And there are things that we can learn from that. And there are things that we can learn for both the good and the bad, and so on and so forth. Technically, on a nature standpoint, if we look at it, I mean, look at nature. There are very few animals out there that are monogamous. Very few. I think like a swan, a seal, if I'm not mistaken, a penguin, if I'm not mistaken. Very few, though. You look at the rest of nature, like look at a lion. There's the guy, and he has all his women.
Really?
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how nature works. Where the man
Are all lions like that, or only like the really like powerful masculine ones?
No, it's all polygamy. That's how nature works. Now look at our world. If you look at it from the perspective of Aubrey, again, I don't agree with it because it's not my way of living. But if you want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt and you look at it from their perspective, there's a reason why over 50% of this country is divorced.
Yeah.
It's because monogamy is not natural to human beings.
Right.
We've made it something that's a social norm.
Yeah.
And there are other places that you go to where that's not the norm, and polygamy is the norm. But this is the norm that we're living in. It's something I'm comfortable with. I would, like, just to be super transparent, like either way, having another man, bring another woman, it would bring like jealousy. I don't want that.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry to interrupt you, bro.
Yeah.
I just see on my phone right now, it's 1:11.
Hey.
I think that's a beautiful transition to talk about the power of certain numbers, because I know you've had a couple of really powerful videos talking about numerology. You've talked
Yep.
about Aramaic, Hebrew, stuff like that. I'll let you just take that away because, you know, one of the things that I've noticed recently is like there's certain numbers that always seem to be showing up for me, like 5:55, for example. Now I set my alarm each morning, 5:55 a.m. And then 5:55 p.m. is like I'll take time to journal and reflect for 5 minutes, but I'll drive past a building, 5:55. Like there's so many places where I just see this number, and I went to the spiritual significance of it, and it was just like a lot of growth, a lot of transformation. This means that you're ascending to this new version of yourself. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. So can you talk a little bit about numerology?
Every number has an energy to it. You know of cymatics, yeah? Basically the shape of sound. Every single number has an energy behind it. You can measure that energy by multiple different ways. You can literally see the molecular formation of water, just like Masaru Emoto did with words. You can do it with numbers. And you can see the shape of the energy of a number imprinted on water. If you take a bottle of water and cover it in 2s versus covering it in 5s, you're going to see different formations come, because there's a different energy to the 2 than there is to the 5. Now, there are 2 different types of languages out there. There are created languages and there are discovered languages. Created languages is like English, where it's not real. We just made it up. Discovered languages are languages based on mathematics. So things like Aramaic, things like Hebrew, which is the same alphabet as Aramaic. Those are discovered languages. It's based on mathematics. How do we know that? I'll prove it to you. When you say the letter A out loud, just the letter, the sound of the letter A, and you shape that sound of A, according to cymatics, it's going to give you an arbitrary shape. But when you say Aleph out loud,
Aleph.
the shape of the sound is an Aleph. Do you understand what that means? That means that the letter itself is the shape of the sound. It's understanding the sound and the energy of every single shape. How they knew that back then, I don't know. But they did, because they've done studies today to show it. Now, in Hebrew and Aramaic, there's something called gematria. Gematria is an alphanumeric code that correlates every letter to a specific number. So Aleph is 1, and Bet is 2, and Chet is 8, and Yud is 10, and so on and so forth. And then when you take certain letters and you make up words, well, then each word has a sum to it of its numerology. So the word life in Hebrew in this case, because I know Hebrew, so I'll speak on that basis, which is chai, made of two letters, chet and yud. Chet is the letter or the number 8, and yud is the number 10. You get the number 18. 18 represents in Hebrew or Aramaic the resonance of life. Now let's look where else that represents the resonance of life. And the answer is the Schumann resonance. Schumann resonance, its standard deviation is 7.83 hertz. 7, 8, and 3, when you add it up, is 18. Resonance of life, Earth's heartbeat. Now, let's look at certain things that they taught us to be afraid of. 666, they call it satanic. That's 18. Take love, ahava, made of 4 letters in Hebrew, which you have a tattoo of. Aleph, hey, bet, hey. You take those 4 letters, you're going to get 1525. 1525 equals 13. 13 has been something that we've been taught is unlucky. Friday the 13th, which, by the way, I believe is today, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, shit. Let's go, baby.
Friday the 13th is supposed to be a very unlucky day.
Yeah.
But why? Why did they make love, 13, evil or bad or unlucky, and life, which is 666, 18, satanic and evil? It doesn't need to be that way. Numbers, language, it's all the same exact thing expressed differently. Hebrew is a code. Aramaic is a code. Yeah, we could speak the code in letters that we understand, in words that we understand, but it's all numbers. The word emet, if I'm not mistaken, which means truth, is 18. The word echad, which means one, is 13, which is also love. And we can go on and on and on.
It's crazy.
The point over here is numbers, math is what creation is based on. It's what existence is. It's all based on numbers. And when we start playing the game from that perspective, things start changing a little bit. Because like if you were just to embed certain numbers as codes, which are words, it's one and the same. If you were to embed numbers on this water, the water will have them embedded. If you were to embed the numbers on the container, the water would then have it embedded within them. And now when you drink the water, you take on that energy. So 222, 555, 888, the number 8 in general, all of them have different resonances and frequencies to them. And we can go on forever.
Yeah.
But to understand them deeper and correlate them to languages, studying, you said you want to learn Hebrew, Aramaic is a much more powerful language because that's the least diluted version of what we're talking about.
If I learn Aramaic, will I still be able to like speak and understand Hebrew?
No.
Oh.
No.
Well,
it's too different. It's like, it's too different.
who uses Aramaic?
Nobody.
No one.
No.
Interesting.
But Aramaic, because of how closely related it is to creation as a whole, you can use it to change the outcome of events.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to sound crazy, but take weather. Okay, weather, they use something called HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, which is basically a form of energetic and frequency manipulation to change the weather. Well, you could do that with Aramaic if you know how to use it. There's a book called Sefer HaYetzirah. In English, they call it the Book of Creation. It's believed to be written by Abraham. Nobody knows who wrote it, but they think Abraham, the forefather of so-called Judaism, wrote it. But they don't know. Very, very long time ago. Old book, not long, written Aramaic. It's a book of codes. And I'm going to tell you on a personal level, I know people that use certain codes in that book in a specific way to do some crazy things in this world.
Oh, wow.
That's why I'm saying you can use it just like they use HAARP, only HAARP is for negative purposes. You can use language in a specific way, like abracadabra comes from Aramaic. And it means what I speak, I create, and as I speak, I create. That's the basis of it all. It's mathematics.
What are some words that we should never speak out loud because they are destructive and they're destroying our vibration? Things like I can't, or I'm a big believer that we should remove but from our vocabulary. Like, I really love you, but I don't like the way that you smirk like that. Well, you just negated the compliment by saying but. So you replace the but with an and.
100%.
I love you, and it sometimes bothers me when you do that little thing with your nose where it looks like you're picking, even though I know you're scratching. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Are there any words or phrases that come to mind?
Yeah, I actually wrote a book on this. It's called The Language of Energy. Number 1, will. Number 2, want. Number 3, not. All of those are problematic.
Will, want, not.
Because when you will do something, you're putting it in the future that doesn't exist. Because when you do that something, it's going to happen in the present moment. When you want something, you're only going to manifest more wanting of that thing. And when you use the word not, you're focusing on the wrong subject. So let's think about that. If you want to not be sick, and you say, I do not want to be sick, well, your intention is you want to be healthy, or your intention is not wanting to be sick. The frequency that you're focusing on is sickness. And not just made that possible. So not is a big problem. Will would say, I will be the greatest I can be. Why will you? Why are you doing it then? Because if it's staying in a state of will, you're never going to reach it. And when you say, I want to be healthy, well, your subject is the right focus. You're focusing on health. But the implication on that subject is wanting health. And there are 2 laws that we got to remember here that show you why those words are so dangerous. The first law is called the law of conservation. Energy can't be created or destroyed. And the second law is called the law of vibration. You experience what you're in resonance with. Energy cannot be created or destroyed tells us, in this context, that all realities already exist. A happy you, a sad you, a sick you, a healthy you, and so on and so forth. The law of resonance, the law of vibration, tells us what you are vibrating with, you will experience. So when you say, I want to be happy, well, you already have that right now because the law of conservation shows us that a happy version of you exists in this present moment. And the law of vibration shows us that all you have to do is tune to the happy version of you in order to experience it now. So when you say, I want something, you're forgetting those 2 laws. When you say, I will do something, you're placing it in a point that doesn't exist. And when you use the word not, you're inherently focusing on a subject that you don't want to experience in the first place. The other side note that I would say is the word should. You could say could. Because when you say you should do something, or you should go home, or you should do this for your business, it's like a judgment.
Yeah.
It's a lower vibrational word. But when you say, you could do this, it's up to you. You don't have to. It's not something you should do, but you could. It changes it. It gets the person to want to do it because you just showed them an opportunity instead of telling them this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
So some examples.
That's the idea too of like parallel destinies. Like they talk about this a lot in Kabbalah. Parallel destinies essentially is like any reality that you desire already exists. It's just about becoming a vibrational match to that and continuing to elevate your soul and reduce and eliminate instant gratification and all of these lower vibrations that are very easy to fall victim to, especially in the world we're living in. I actually found myself, funny story I'm just going to share with you. That night, Friday night, Shabbat dinner. Friday night Shabbat dinner was the first time I met this girl that I was really vibing with, right? She goes home, and before she left home, actually, I messaged this girl that was going to come for the after party, and I messaged her not to come. And I was like, I just think it's best if you don't come. I wanted to like have my energy with her, and I didn't want to create any like weird scenarios, whatever. So Liel left. She left Shabbat dinner and went back home. This other girl who like I hadn't really seen in a long time, but I've known her for a while. She came to the after party when like pretty much everyone had left. And like, I don't know what it was, bro, but she was like just touching me and like whispering all these things into my ear, wanted me to go to this club with her. And I was like, no, like I can't do this. I'm like, I really want to commit to cultivating a connection with this girl. And like, this goes completely against that. So I feel like that was just a test from God, and it allowed me to become closer to the destiny that I desire. You know, so life is always testing us.
You said parallel lives or parallel
Destinies.
There's something that I want to blow your mind on something because it's really cool. And it's something that like just makes me go crazy every time I think about it. And it's not even related to what you're saying right now, but I think it needs to be shared because it has to do with the parallel destinies and the idea of time.
Yeah.
So you know how they say time doesn't exist? And you know how they say that everything that happened already happened and everything that will happen already happened and nobody really understands what that means?
Yeah.
So it brought me to this idea of parallel lives because people say past lives and future lives, and then there's parallel lives. So like, what is time and how do we understand that? Because it really, really, really shifted everything for me when I saw it, and I just feel like I got to share it here because it's
Let's
crazy.
do it, bro.
So there is no such thing as past, and there is no such thing as future. And I'll prove it to you. Do you know what the speed of light is?
No.
186,000 miles per second. It's very fast. It's about 7 times around this planet every single second. 186,000 miles per second is the speed of light, meaning if me and you were 186,000 miles away from each other, and the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second, and I turned a light bulb on, how long would it take for you to see the light bulb turn on?
1 second.
1 second. Now here's what's interesting. When I turn the light bulb on, it happens in my present, but I am looking at your future because you are seeing it 1 second after it happened in my present reality because of where I am in relation to the light bulb. Now let's make that a whole lot bigger. 1 light year. Pay attention to the fact that they're defining a distance through time. Because that's what time is. It's how long it takes for light to reach point A to point B. Time is the measurement of light at the speed of light from point A to point B, and that's what a light year is. So 1 light year is 186,000 miles per second multiplied by the amount of seconds in a year. It will give you about 5 to 6 trillion miles away. That's the distance of 1 light year. So now I'm going to ask you again. If you are 1 light year away from me and I turn a light bulb on, how long will it take for you to see the light turn on?
1 second.
1 year.
1 year. Sorry. One year.
Because you're 1 light year away from me. So what's happening in my present, I am seeing your future. And when you see it, your present will be my past. It's all happening at the same time, depending on where you are. So I'll give you a real life example. The sun, 93 million miles away from this planet. If the sun were to explode right now, theoretically, it would take you 8 minutes to experience it. Because the light of it would take 8 minutes, or the no light in this case, would take 8 minutes to reach you at the speed of light. The closest star, with the exception of the sun to this planet, is 4 light years away. So quite literally, when you're looking up at the night sky tonight and you're looking at the stars, you're looking into the past. It's their past, it's your present, and they're looking into your future. It's all happening at the same time. If me and you tonight look up and see a star 10 light years away explode, that explosion happened in 2015.
Wow.
You understand that? And yet if we now go to that star and take a telescope and look at Earth, what are you going to see? You're going to see Earth in 2015. Because the light of that experience is there. So if you want to see what happened in ancient Egypt without guessing, what you would need to do is find a way to get about 3,000 light years away from this planet instantaneously. And if you can do that, you take a telescope and you look at Earth, and you will see what happened 3,000 years ago, because the light of the experience from 3,000 years ago is 3,000 light years away. That's where it is. So what we call our past on this planet is present somewhere else based on the speed of light and the distance of how far away it is. And yet to them, it's the future. The past, the present, and the future are all the present. But the illusion of the past and the future are based on where you are relative to a different point. And if you were to theoretically be able to zoom out of the entire universe, which you can't because it never ends, but let's assume that you did, there is no past and future. It's all happening simultaneously. Past and future only exists when you have point A and point B to be relative to one another. And I bring that up because you brought up parallel destinies, which means there's no such thing as a past life.
So you don't believe in past life, like regressions and stuff?
No, I do. I just call them parallel lives.
Got it.
It's a past to me and you,
Yeah.
but it's happening somewhere right now, depending on how long ago it happened and how far it is from the destination physically that it happened in. The only difference here is while you will see the light of the experience, you will not be able to hear it. And you won't be able to hear it because the speed of light is different than the speed of sound. The speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. The speed of sound is about 767 miles per hour. It's much slower. So the light will be at a different point than the sound. And when it comes to this idea of time travel, they have something called the grandfather paradox, which says, what happens if I travel back in time and kill my old grandfather? Do I cease to exist? And the answer is, you can't kill him. You can only observe the past experience from a different perspective. But you can't change it. You can't impact it because you're only looking at the light of the experience itself. So I think this is somewhere we're going to end up getting to, which will completely change science because it shows us that everything is happening simultaneously. The past is an illusion, the future is an illusion, and everything already happened. The question is, what part of the process are you in to experience it? It's crazy.
Did you guys get all that? Yeah.
You're going to have to watch that like 5 times to understand what I just said, by the way.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess that's also, I feel like, somewhat related to astrology, right? How do you feel about the idea that like our souls chose our parents? Do you agree with that statement?
I do, but I'd like to find a way to prove it. I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think the way that I see it is everything is happening for ascension and evolution. And we are choosing not just our parents, but our life experiences to an extent to be able to rebalance certain things karmically.
Yeah.
So like if you were a pedophile in your past life, you may choose to come back into this life having a father that's going to abuse you sexually. Not to punish you. Forget about that word. To rebalance an experience. If you were a really, really rich man in your past life that never helped people, you may come back as the person that was never helped. In Hebrew, we call it a tikkun. It's a rectification.
Yeah.
It's not a punishment. It's just rebalancing energies.
We actually never talked about something that we mentioned we were definitely going to talk about, which is this whole idea that we're living in a simulation.
I think we should close on this one because it's a big deal. It's a big one, but I'll try to make it as concise as I can. We kind of spoke about it in a way, so I'll
Your challenge is going to be to talk about this idea of the simulation theory that we're living in a simulation in 90 seconds or less.
No
so
problem.
we can fit it in an Instagram reel.
No problem.
Yeah, like because people hear this term all the time, like simulation theory. Are we living in a simulation? What does it even mean?
We are living in a simulation, and I'll prove it to you. Look at a computer. A computer is surfing the internet. YouTube.com is not YouTube.com with videos. It's made of something called a source code. It's written in a specific language. The job of the computer is to take the source code, to decode the source code through its CPU and its RAM and its whatever components and its microchips and whatnot, to be able to take that, decode it, and show you youtube.com on the screen. That means youtube.com is not a website with videos on it and comments and likes. It's a website that is a source code that the computer decodes into a coherent experience, and that's exactly what you're doing as a human being. There's a source code. We call it light. And you take that light and you have components. You have your brain, you have your eyes, you have your ears, you have your mouth, you have your nose, you have your senses to be able to decode wavelengths, frequencies, and energies into reality. So your eyes take energy and decode it into something you can see, and your ears take energy and decode it into something you can hear. And the quality of your instruments dictates what you'll be able to see. Because there are some people, I have eyes and you have eyes, but you may be able to see somebody's aura and I can't. It's because your quality of your instruments are a little bit better than mine. Just like I can have a computer that's a little bit faster than another one. It's about the quality of your computer, the quality of your components in your body that we call your instruments, your eyes, your ears, your brain, your nose, your mouth, and so on and so forth. The job of those components is to take source code, which is not color and it's not sound, it's just energy, and to take it and convert it into what we call color, sound, light, and so on and so forth. In that way, nothing exists outside of you. Everything exists because of you.
That was fucking very well said. I think that was 90 seconds or less, too.
I hope so. That's your simulation.
When you get into these flow states, when you're speaking about things, I think this is the highest level of consciousness we can operate from, is when we're literally just a channel. We're just a vessel, and there's no thought into the words that you're saying. You can see it and experience it where it's just a transmission straight through your soul, like connected to the creator, and you're just a vessel to deliver the message. You know, it's really special.
A lot of the time when I speak, I don't remember what I say, and I don't remember what I say because of that, where you got to trust it. You got to trust that you're not smarter than whatever's going on here. And if you surrender to, like, listen, I've done, it takes a risky attitude. I held an event about a year and a half ago, and I was speaking for like 12 hours a day. I didn't know how the hell I was going to do that. And like I had a lot of people counting on me to deliver something good.
Yeah.
What helped me was zooming out and saying, okay, I can't do that on my own. I'm not going to try. So I'm just going to surrender and trust that something great is going to happen. It was the greatest event I've ever put together.
Yeah. It's
3
awesome.
days, many, many, many endless hours a day. And it never ran out, because when you're not taking it from you and you're allowing it to flow through you, it's endless. It's endless. And the perfect things come.
That's just a different stream of consciousness.
It's faith. That's all it is. You have to have faith.
And that is, that there, when it comes down to it, I feel like there really are only two ways to live life. And it's either operating from a space of fear or operating from a space of
love,
faith, and trust.
Yeah.
Like really fully trusting that everything is happening for you in a very specific way, right? Like you're being uniquely, divinely guided on this path. And when you're living from that space, bro, it's very, very special, because you know that everything that is happening, good or bad, all of the obstacles, all of the challenges are happening for you, and they're happening in a very unique way where later on you'll be able to connect the dots and be like, ooh,
Yeah.
I see why that person was in my life for that period of time. Oh, I see why I got fired from that job. Oh, I see why I moved to this city at this moment. And that's a beautiful space to operate from. Like, are there any things that help you? You know, you're a busy guy. You have a lot of shit going on, you know, and I'm sure there's moments potentially where fear comes up, but it seems like you've done a great job at dimming that aspect of life.
Yeah, but it happens, man. I mean, like, the past year has been insane in my life, you know, and I had every reason to fear every step that I took. And don't get me wrong, I have fear. I just don't let the fear stop me.
Yeah.
There's a very big difference. I like, if I told you I'm sitting here and I'm not afraid of certain things, I'm lying to you. I do have fear because I'm a human being. But if you what's important is you can't let the fear actually stop you. Do it and do it scared, but do it.
That's courage.
Yeah.
That's bravery.
You could still have fear, right? If you're going to war and you have a risk of dying, you're scared. Go and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So same idea. I don't think it's about dissolving fear. I think it's about not letting it stop you.
What are some of the practices that you have to cultivate more trust in your day-to-day life? Whether it's prayer, whether it's certain rituals that help you feel more connected?
I'll tell you the truth. I don't know. I think I'm just a very ballsy individual. That's the truth. I take a lot of big risks. I take calculated risks, and there's something within my heart that tells me, do it from the right place and it's going to work out. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But I don't care when it doesn't because I find a way to fix it. And if I don't, so be it. I can't give you a direct answer of like, I meditate every day and this is why I do it. No, I just do it.
Yeah.
You
You have your own unique operating system.
Yeah, that's not really based on something logical, I'll tell you the truth. Because if I just operated from logic, I wouldn't do any of what I'm doing today. Because it doesn't make, like, there are so many moves that are against what the brain would say to do.
Yeah.
It's just against what the brain would say to do.
And that's because the brain is wired for safety.
Yeah.
The brain is wired for comfort. So anytime that you are taking a risk, anytime that you're leaning in to that fear and taking action that goes against safety, that goes against the norm, there's going to be that feeling of resistance. And pushing through that feeling of resistance is really where courage is. And like that's what it's all about, is like,
I think you have to be a little crazy too.
you have to. I mean, you have to have you have to do anything at a high level, and especially to be like a frontier in something, whether it's all this stuff that you're doing here, whether it's like me stepping into the psychedelic space, even though it's not technically legal, right? And there's a lot of stigma. That is all courage and a little craziness, because
You got to be a little crazy.
because there's other things we could do that would be way easier and maybe more lucrative, right?
Listen, you want to reach a high place in life, you got to do big things. That's
Yeah.
it. There's nobody. It's physics technically. I mean, the further you pull back the rock, the further it's going to fly when you let it go in the slingshot. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Only you take that philosophy and principle and you apply it to this. Don't be reckless, right? Don't hurt people. Don't do anything like that. But you got to do some crazy things if you want to reach crazy places. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
And anybody from, if you're talking about like business and money, Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, not that I like these people, but if you look at the principle, they took big risks and they did crazy things, and therefore they have trillion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's just from a business perspective, but that principle applies to everything. And that's, in a way, kind of how I live.
Speaking of very successful entrepreneurs, people who have created a lot of impact in the world, taken some massive risks. I want to take a moment to talk about Elon Musk. And especially with what's going on recently, I mean, Elon Musk is one of the most fascinating humans in all of history. Like, if you look at the insane amount of impact in businesses he's had, right?
Yeah.
Like PayPal, Solar City, Tesla, SpaceX, he buys Twitter. I'm sure there's other businesses he owns that I have no idea about. He has 14 children. Like, this dude is absolutely insane, right? Do you think he is a net positive for society?
It's a good question. I don't know how to weigh the negative versus the positive. Because there are some net negatives that are pretty bad, and there are some net positives that are pretty great. And it depends what we value to determine what the positive is versus the negative is, and which outweighs what. Now, take Twitter. You could say that Twitter was purchased by him because he wanted to give free speech.
Right.
Or we could be a little less naive and look at it from a business perspective. He bought power. And that power is worth a lot more than $44 billion, just to be super clear here. Look at what he did with the presidential election. Whatever you want to think about it, where he invested 100 or 200 million, where he donated 250 million.
Trump probably doesn't win without the support of Elon and his $250 million.
Okay, but just to be clear, that's not a donation. That's an investment.
Of course.
That's money that comes back. It's a good business move. Now, he's a very smart businessman because he knows how to take a business move and make it look humanitarian while there's a lot of positive. Now, is that a bad thing? Maybe not. Doesn't need to be a bad thing. I just want to make it real clear for the people that are played. He's a businessman. Bill Gates is a businessman. These people are businessmen. And they're brilliant businessmen. And they know how to take something that is to their benefit and only focus on how it's benefiting everybody else, like the purchase of Twitter. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay? That whole thing was like very nice, but let's just not be mistaken here. He benefits the most. It wasn't this like hero that came, spent $44 billion, which he didn't, right? He doesn't have $44 billion in cash. He had to go and get it and figure things out, even though he's worth $400 billion. Those people don't have billions of dollars in cash. It's what they're worth in stocks and so on and so forth. So I think overall, he's weird. I think he has a lot of, while he may have very good intentions, we can't forget that he is a very big businessman.
Yeah.
That also has selfish intentions, like every other businessman that's that big out there in the world.
That whole Twitter stuff was crazy with the Epstein files and Trump.
Yeah, of what he was releasing, and now he's apologizing and all that. Listen, I think it makes it even more confusing because he has Asperger's. So now you're taking somebody that's like autistic, but a genius that has or is worth $400 billion and has one of the biggest social media platforms in the world. I don't really know how to digest that and how to take the guy, but without knowing him personally, I think he has a combination of both good and selfish behaviors to him. To say it's a net positive or negative, I don't know. But I think that his Neuralink is very dangerous. And while it's right now focused on helping paraplegics and people like that, I mean, at some point, people are just going to have brain chips. And it doesn't matter if you're sick or not. They're going to use it for a lot of things. And while that starts as a net positive, I can almost guarantee you that's going to end in a net negative. And it may not be his fault. It may be because people are stupid. And people don't understand the impact of something like that when we use it for reasons that it's not meant to be used for. So even if he is net positive, I think long term, his inventions will be used for net negative, almost like the creation of that atomic bomb. You could say Einstein and Oppenheimer were net positives, but it kind of ended in net negative because now everybody has nuclear bombs. And then Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened. And now Israel is going to bomb Iran because they're about to have a nuke.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like it really comes down to the intentions too.
Yeah, which means it's not always based on his intentions. He could have the best intentions and create something great. Yeah. And then a bunch of morons can come and take it over and kill everyone.
Yeah. I think about even something like the vape.
Yeah.
Right? You see, seems like, I mean, even in high schools, like 60, 70% of kids are ripping the vape. They're attached to this adult pacifier. You see so many adults who are constantly just hitting it, right? And the vape originally was introduced to help people get off of cigarettes, right? This was positive. This was the whole intention.
Yeah.
And in that process, you have hundreds of millions of people who never touched a cigarette, who started vaping, became addicted to vaping. Now they have popcorn lung. Now they're just addicted to these quick hits of dopamine, right? So it's like maybe the intention of creating these vapes was positive initially, but as most things go, when there's money involved and there's business involved, it's like we're going to do anything to market this to as many people as possible and just maximize profit.
Yes.
And that's exactly what the healthcare industry in America does too. I mean, I believe last year the US spent $4.5 trillion on healthcare, and 70% of that money was going towards treating chronic diseases, which are actually 100% curable if we actually focused on the root cause, if we actually educated people on how to properly.
If you focus on the root cause, there would be no business.
Exactly.
And then it kind of destroys their business.
Right.
So like, it's very convenient for them that the average American is on 6 pharmaceutical drugs every single day. It's convenient for them that heart disease is the leading cause of death in America. It's convenient for them that the second leading cause of death in America is cancer. It's convenient for them that 1 in 32 kids are autistic, and that number is going to be 1 in 4 in the next 25 years.
Wow.
These things are convenient for them. But just think about it logically, and you know this better than anybody. If we are so medically advanced, why are there more diseases developing every single year? Why are the rates of cancer increasing? Why are the rates of dis-ease increasing across the globe in general, and especially in this country? There is something called the PDR, the Physician's Desk Reference. Every single year, a new one comes out. The Physician's Desk Reference is a book of legal drug dealing. You open the book as a doctor, you see the diagnosis that your patient has, and it gives you exactly what drugs that you got to give them. That's called legal drug dealing. That took a doctor that's supposed to be an educator, because that's what a doctor is supposed to be, a teacher, and turned them into legal drug dealers. Now, here's the interesting thing with the Physician's Desk Reference book. Every year it comes out with a new copy that gets thicker and thicker and thicker. So how is it that we're having more diseases by the thousands every single year that we've never heard of the year before, and yet we call ourselves the most medically advanced we've ever been? That in and of itself is primitive.
That's crazy. And people will refute that, and they'll say, well, if the healthcare system is so broken, then how come people are living longer now?
They're not. That's a scam.
Well, and it's a scam. And the biggest scam about it is, like, we shouldn't be necessarily measuring lifespan. We should be measuring health span. What is the quality of your life while you're actually still living? Because our healthcare system is really designed to just keep you alive and keep you sick, like a very low, mediocre quality of life.
Yes.
Like, there's so many people that are living till the age of 85, but for the last 35 years, they've been popping 6 different medications every day, and they're completely miserable. That's not fucking living, bro.
I want to make something clear in terms of why I'm saying that thing is a scam. Because there's something called lifespan, and there's something called life expectancy. Lifespan didn't change. Life expectancy changed, because 100 years ago, before there was antibiotics and you got bit by something, you got an infection, you die.
Right.
Or an animal comes and eats you, or you're living in a hut somewhere and there's, a hurricane or a tornado and you die. A lot of these things happened back then. The world changed today. So more people died when they were 30 back then, but not from cancer. They died from like bacterial infections because they got bit by something.
Yeah.
Or they didn't have the proper sanitation in their home and things like that. Lifespan, there were actually a lot of people 100 years ago, 200 years ago living over the age of 100. There are more that live till over the age of 100 now because life expectancy is now increasing. The average life expectancy is changing. The lifespan didn't change. There were people that lived that long a long time ago as well, but more died at a younger age. So that's why I'm saying it's a scam, because people don't understand the difference between lifespan and life expectancy. More people are living longer, but like you said, they're living longer and they're being milked like cows because they're sick and they have to pay for all these drugs all the time just to stay alive.
Yeah, it's very well said. And it's also talking about scams. I wrote down here that 45% of FDA funding comes from the pharmaceutical companies that the FDA is supposed to regulate.
Which is insane.
Like, the absolute hypocrisy in that. How are you supposed to be objective?
I mean, if you want to take it a step further than that, remember we said that you cannot patent something that occurs naturally in nature. If you can't patent something that occurs naturally in nature, so again, you have to take something natural, like the willow bark tree. You have to create a synthetic version. They call that Advil and aspirin. It comes from the willow bark tree. And before it became a generic pill, they had an exclusive on the patent that they sold and made billions and billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars. Now, here's what most people don't know. The people in the FDA that approve certain things always end up, after they retire from the FDA, on the board of directors of the companies that they approve things for. That's called bribing. It means, hey, do what you got to do now. I can't legally give you $5 million. But don't worry, we'll make a deal where after you're done with this whole thing, you're going to come here. We'll give you a salary of $2 million a year for 3 years.
Yeah, like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson.
That's called a legal bribe.
All of these guys from the FDA are then going to these big pharma companies and like having executive roles there.
They're not doing anything. They're just getting paid for something they did in the past.
It's crazy that these companies still aren't really being held accountable, by the way. You know, it's like, I saw an Instagram ad for Monsanto, for Roundup, literally promoting glyphosate. And we were talking earlier about, you know, the branch and the tree and everything. What's the real foundation? The real foundation of our health comes from the soil, right? And in America, a majority of the soil is being sprayed with Roundup, which contains glyphosate, and that glyphosate is disrupting our endocrine system. It's driving inflammation. It's driving disease. That's why when you go to Europe, you eat a pizza in Italy, right, where glyphosate was banned 10 years ago, you have no issues. I go to Italy, I crush a whole pizza every day, I eat gelato, and because they're actually using real ingredients from high quality soil, you don't gain weight, you don't experience all the problems you do in America. It's crazy.
The topsoil in this country also changed big time. Topsoil used to be, feet. Now it's like 2 inches or like 1.5 inches, which is insane. And that's why, like, you go to Alaska where the topsoil is much thicker and less corrupted, you get things that grow much, much bigger. You get a pumpkin in Alaska, it's massive. You grow a pumpkin here, it looks like it has cancer. It's like, it's not growing. And it's because of the topsoil. So things back in the day used to be much bigger. People used to be bigger. Everything used to be bigger because there was a lot more nutrients. There was a lot more, everything was a lot richer.
Yeah.
And today, look at cars, right? Everything used to be made of like steel and it was a lot stronger. Now on the best car, you could pay 120 grand. You have a plastic bumper.
What do you feel about electric cars, by the way? By the way,
cancer.
When you pulled up in that fucking Escalade, dude, I was so happy. I was like, yes.
No electric cars for me.
Bro, that Escalade's such a classic, though. I remember, yes. So, yeah, I talked about this with Billy Carson a little bit. You know, Teslas. It seems like every car brand and company now is releasing their EV model. These electric cars that we were told are more green for the environment and that they're healthier and they're better and we save money. And it's all of these things that appear to be positive, but that's not true, is it?
Number one, you need gas to power the electrical plant that gives you the electricity. That's the first thing. So it's actually running on gas. You're just converting the gas into electricity and then calling it an electric car. It's one thing if you told me there's solar panels and you're converting sunlight into energy, it's a different story. Yeah. That's not what's going on here. You are using gas to pay that generates the electricity in your home, which you pay for. That charges your Tesla. Beyond that, you're sitting on a battery that kills you. Like I had a Garmin watch that I was wearing. I wore it for like 2 days, and I don't know if this is the reason why I got sick, but I got sick. And my hand was hurting yesterday, I realized. And that's just from a little stupid watch. That's not even an Apple Watch. It was one of those running ones that I was using to track certain things. And 4 days in, I started not feeling well. Now, I don't know if it's because of that, but I can tell you I haven't worn it since yesterday. I feel great right now, too. So Teslas are that on crack. You're sitting on a massive EMF, and it's radiating you in a microwave 24/7. It can't be healthy. Even if it's healthy, which it's not, let's assume that it was like healthier for the environment, which it's not, because you have to take all these minerals and lithium and so on outside of the earth. You have to take it from the earth and mine all of these things. And where do you put it when they die? That's also a whole toxic mess that's going on. But it's killing you. And if you're not healthy, then how is this world healthy?
When I take an Uber and it's a Tesla and it's like a longer ride, like 45 minutes to an hour, I feel different after that ride. I feel like there's some fogginess in my brain. And
I was riding one of my friend's scooters, and the scooter has a lithium battery on the bottom. And I'm telling you, I have a scooter as well, and I'm sure it has the same type of battery. But my scooter has a seat on it. So with the seat, my feet don't have to touch where the battery is. On his, it doesn't have a seat, so I was standing on it. Do you know how much I couldn't stand on it? Like, I was riding it for 10 minutes, and I felt like I was dying. Like, it was hot, but like radiation hot. It was weird. So I know the feeling that you're talking about.
It's also like, I see this all the time. I'll see people and they'll be working with their laptop and their laptop's right over their genitals. And there's no protection in between. It's essentially like putting your ball sack in a microwave.
Literally.
Same thing with the women too, bro. I see that women do this all the time. And it's like, this is literally your most sensitive region of the body. And you're just exposing it to that level of radiation and heat and EMFs. It's so bad. Like, you could literally just put a pillow in between. It's a very easy solution.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it all comes down to, Jason, I feel like our society has just become addicted to convenience. If you think about it, right? Like, you can just go on a dating app, swipe right for 30 minutes, and within a couple hours, you can probably be having sex with a stranger, right? You can go on Uber Eats, and within 30 minutes, you could have Burger King, McDonald's, whatever food you want delivered to your door without having to move.
Buy now, pay later. It's convenient.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with something like AirPods.
Yeah.
AirPods, I feel like, are so destructive and toxic. It's emitting this high level of EMFs, these electromagnetic frequencies, but it's directly connected to your brain.
On your brain.
You know, and people are wearing these things for 6 or 7 hours a day. I don't think it's a huge problem if you wear it for a phone call, like 30 minutes a day. Okay,
whatever, go on a run, do something.
Yeah.
100%.
But people literally, you know, they're listening to their podcasts, their music, they're taking their Zoom call. They're wearing this shit all day, bro. And I think we may not know the repercussions of that now, but I feel like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we're going to see a lot of people that were negatively impacted from frying their brains with AirPods and similar type things.
100%. We're seeing it. Same thing with vapes. They're like, yeah, it's better than cigarettes until now. And then they're starting to realize certain things. When you smoke something like that for too long, over a period of time, what you thought was better may end up actually being worse. It's just a weird world that we live in. And I think it has to do with a lot of a lack of awareness, a lack of knowledge on certain fundamentals. You don't have to be an expert in something to figure out the basics of something. If you know the basics, a lot of things start making sense to you. And that's why my focus is, it's really on like energetic law. You understand that, you understand everything else in the world.
Yeah. I wanted to also respect the time and the conversation. I feel like we flowed pretty well. What have you guys thought? You guys enjoyed?
Excellent. By the way, spermidine is the compound. It comes from sperm. It's a longevity nutrient that a lot of biohackers have been using.
There we go.
Spermidine, baby. You heard it here first. We're going to normalize just bathing in urine. Bathing, what was the other shit that you were doing, you said? Like you took off the Garmin watch and you drank your own urine and you started to feel better. That's an interesting holistic
Well, I did a
story.
few things. The second I felt it was yesterday at 11 a.m., took off the watch, drank apple, lemon, and ginger juice, 2 of them. I went to get a massage for an hour.
Yeah.
I then went to the warehouse with this, and I laid in there for like 30, 40 minutes on a zero gravity chair. Then I went to this amazing chiropractor. And then I went into the sauna.
Okay, so you did a lot of things.
And then I slept with onions on my feet,
Onions on
covered in saran wrap with socks. And I woke up perfect. That's what I did.
the onions with the feet thing. We're going to have to.
It sucks it out. It's great.
Interesting.
I don't know what ended up fixing this whole thing, but it worked.
Is there anything that we didn't touch on today that you want to mention? And yeah, like any parting words for the people?
Number one, I think we should do a future conversation only on food, because that's a big one. My parting words in general are, I'll be back.
That's
The same thing that I always say. And I really feel that we need to stop making things so complex. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. And I know some that are great, but like, it doesn't change the fundamental laws. It doesn't change the things that make this world a little simpler than we've made it out to be. And that's kind of what I live by. And that's what I ask everybody else to live by as well. Just understand the certain fundamentals that make up everything else. Understand the governing laws. Study that, and it will make it so much easier to live your life in a much more coherent way. So my message is always just remember who you are, remember how powerful you are, remember that you have 3 trillion volts of electricity running through your body, by the way, which is an insane number. And remember that nothing can really stop you if you understand who you are and you tap into that power. You have to do that only through knowledge and awareness. And that's really where my jab starts and ends. So that's what I hope people take away from it.
We'll talk more about this
Sounds good.
next time. We'll film some content for this. And yeah, bro, I just want to acknowledge you, man. It's been amazing just getting to know you over the last few months and building a friendship. I'm really excited to spend some time together this summer in Israel.
Yes.
And I'm just inspired by everything that you're doing, bro. The amount of wisdom and knowledge you have and the way that you're able to communicate it in a way that can actually reach the masses is truly a gift. Because there's so many smart people out there, but they don't know how to articulate things in a more digestible way.
100%.
And ultimately, that is kind of worthless.
Yeah.
Because if you can't use your knowledge to positively impact people, then what are you doing? So I want to acknowledge you, bro, for just being able to communicate and share these things in a way that no one else can. Like, you are fully embodying your purpose. I'm so excited to just witness your path, your future. It's super bright. And yeah, everybody, make sure to follow Jason. Check out the light system. We'll link to all of this stuff in the show notes. And round 3 will be a deep dive on nutrition. I love that. Make sure to thumbs up, subscribe, like that shit, share it with a friend. Much love, everybody. Peace. You did it. You made it to the end of the show. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your support in listening to this podcast. And really, my mission here is to deliver the best conversations, the best people, so you can continue elevating and becoming the best version of yourself. And all that I ask in return is that you actually take action on the things that we talk about in these conversations, whether it's certain habits to implement or certain thought patterns or belief systems that you want to reprogram and remove from your life. I just want to remind you that your life is your gift. And you are the creator. You are the main character of your movie. So please, please take action on these things we discuss. And tag me on social media. Tag me on Instagram in your stories at Jeremy Awakens. Let me know what stood out the most to you. Let me know what were some powerful moments for you from this conversation. And finally, if you haven't already done so, it would mean the world if you left a review for the podcast. Word of mouth is our oxygen. This is what allows us to reach more people and impact more lives. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you next time.